Here's Brody Brazil.
I saw this interesting interaction the other day in a post-game media session between Giants manager Gabe Kapler and one of the reporters in the scrum, who I won't get into detail on. I don't know if they want to be named or singled out. It's not fair to do that. But this is more of a study about the situation. Honestly, not even the individuals, but I'll play for you what happened here. I'll give you the context as KNBR tweeted it out. Gabe Kapler has a spirited back and forth with the reporter on the distinction between leaving Wade Meckler in on Monday versus pinch hitting for him in a similar situation on Wednesday. Gabe, in his familiar post-game couch setting, I don't know that I've ever seen a big league manager do their post-game interviews on an office couch. Usually there's a podium involved or even a desk a lot of times in the home or visiting manager's office, but he likes the couch, and here's how the interaction went.
Earlier this series, we talked about why you stuck with Wade Meckler in with the bases loaded against a lefty. Bases loaded against a lefty tonight, you decided to pinch hit Slater for him. What changed, if anything, in that decision?
I'm absolutely happy to make the distinction, but I'm just curious if you know the distinction.
Is it just Slater versus Ramos?
Yeah, I mean, this is not a disrespect to Ramos in any way, but I think Ramos has like 4 career pinch hit at bats. Slater's one of the best pinch hitters in baseball. So I don't mind, of course, explaining something, but I just sometimes wonder if the question is, hey, can you say it? Or if that distinction isn't clear. I'm just curious about that.
Slater hasn't been hitting awesome either. He has more of a track record, sure, but...
Would you agree that he's one of the 5 best right-handed pinch hitters over the course of the last 3 or 4 years?
Yeah.
Do you think there's that creates a distinction between him and a guy that has 4 career pinch hit at bats?
Sure.
Okay, so I'm not criticizing you at all. I'm just wondering if what you're asking is for me to say that, or if whether or not there's a distinction at all for you.
I think it was a similar situation, so I think people would be interested to learn
Sure.
and hear you explain it.
Yeah, and so, I mean, again, Slater's one of the best pinch hitters in baseball, particularly against left-handed pitching over the course of the last 3 seasons. And so in that situation, we trust that he's going to go up there and have a good at-bat. He did, and he rounded into a double play. But I had him go up there because he's really, really good at that. Just has had a stretch where he hasn't had a lot of success.
Okay, and I think that was described perfectly, a spirited back and forth. There's no yelling and shouting here, and it doesn't get personal back and forth, and I think there was professionalism on both sides. Clearly, Gabe was a bit irked by the situation, and they must have lost that night. Usually a win comes with, we'll brush past pinch hitting decisions and game management stuff. I don't remember specifically, but spirited. That's a good way to put it. And again, I'm not trying to blow this out of proportion or out of context. I just want to kind of go into a deep dive on the study of what happened here and what happens a lot in professional sports. This could be baseball, basketball, football, hockey, doesn't matter. Field managers, head coaches, oftentimes they are middle managers in a sense that, they're in charge of putting in the relief pitcher, executing a line change, making a substitution, a lot of times calling plays, but quite often the overall theme of decision-making comes from above them. They are not the final say on what happens because everything they do gets judged not only by fans, but also by media and also by their superiors in the front office. Now, I'm just giving you context here because the reason Gabe Kapler might be frustrated, maybe what he did was not even a decision that he wanted to make, or maybe his difference, his change in execution happened because he was advised there's a better way to do this than what you did the first time. And so my point, and I don't know that for sure, maybe he's in a difficult spot being the middleman here, right? Being literally a middle manager as a field manager. By the way, quick story. Let me divert from this for just a second. When I was a lot newer to the Sharks, first couple years covering the team, I remember a post-game, it was a pregame session with the head coach, Todd McClellan, who honestly turned out to be a good friend and confidant, so to speak, shared a lot of information and a good person to work with. But there was one situation where the team had lost a bunch of games, and I think I simply asked the question, like, what's the condition in the room right now? And he has to maintain a certain composure and upbeat delivery because what he says matters to everybody hears it, players included. And he kind of ripped me. He said, condition of the room, well, the paint's fine, the carpet was just cleaned, and the doors work. I don't know what you're talking about. So that was kind of a slap back, but it was fine. Afterwards, he pulled me aside and said, you know what? I was not personal to you. That's the answer I have to give. Right? So understand that when, a manager, a head coach, when they're asked a question in a media session like this, it's not just for fans. It's not just for us in the media. These messages are valuable. This is how strings get pulled and buttons get pushed. But I as a media person, and I recognize this in myself. So let me be critical of myself. I, a lot of times, can ask a better question. Now, a better question and the intent of the question are two different things. I firmly believe that the media is usually asking a question for a very specific purpose. In that case, the person writing their piece probably already had that they were going to summarize the situation, what happened, how Gabe had made a different decision the prior time, and it had altered his thinking over time. So the question was intentional. There was no fishing on that one like, well, let's see what we get out of this answer. There was a very intentional motivation with that question, and I'm okay with that. But I think if we're going to do intentional questions, let's really try and get maybe a breakdown of something we didn't know, not confirming the obvious. And I think that's what Gabe took exception to there. Look, to be clear, let's get this off for a second. To be clear, that was not a bad question, and there was no malice with that question at all. There's nothing wrong with that, but you can see how one side, person in the media, wanted something, and the manager, for a lot of reasons, was a bit sensitive about it. So Gabe identified that pretty quickly, that this was, you just want me to say it so you can just copy and paste it right in your article. He kind of did notice that and called it out. The other part about it is that managers, I think, beyond being criticized by every angle and everybody, they rely on their own odds and instincts. They're in the clubhouse. They watch BP. They talk to their bench coaches. They know, they have a pretty good feel of who's doing what on any given day. And sometimes, a lot of times, there's a lot of things you don't know. So-and-so's under the weather. Well, I'm not going to pinch hit them for somebody else. But I'm also not going to spell it out in the press that this person's not feeling great. I don't want to show my cards at any expense. But also managers rely on the odds. So they put together instincts and feelings and understandings and stats, and they put odds in their head. But the public, I feel, a lot of times expects a certainty. Well, if you put this person in the game, they'll score 30 points. They'll get 2 goals. They'll throw 3 touchdown passes. It's not all fantasy sports, and I think we all understand that, but people on the inside have that going for them. And so I feel like their defense is that they don't feel trusted. They know so much more than any of us, and they don't feel trusted even with all that knowledge. And then kind of the last point to make here is just that, post games near the end of any regular season are a grind, and especially when you don't win, and especially when they were on a roll like the Giants were, and now things have started to unravel a little bit. But this is not like a Game 5 post-game session. This is at the end of the year when people are a little bit worn out, and it's always in a post-game. Everybody comes to the ballpark feeling okay, but by the end of the night, there's a different sentiment. This is human nature, right? So I'm going to wrap this up by saying I didn't think I'd go this long in trying to spell all that out, but not a big deal. This type of thing happens. I think, again, the media on our side, all of us, myself included, we can do a little bit of a better job asking better questions, more insightful questions, more open-ended questions. We can go fishing a little bit more. At the same respect, managers have to know that something like this is coming, and he gets this a lot. He probably gets it all the time, and this was the one instance where he got a little testy in return. And I still think there was nothing wrong with maybe his explanation. And I bet you there was a follow-up conversation that might have healed some of anything that happened here. So thumbs up on this video since you made it all the way to the end. I very much appreciate that. And don't forget to subscribe to this channel so I can definitely see you back here next time.